Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and is essentially the glue that holds you together. In fact, after age 20, people produce 12% less collagen in their skin each decade. Collagen depletion is what makes you look old. Most collagen supplements do not provide the hydrolyzed bioactive collagen peptides that enable your body to digest collagen properly, plus it tastes badly. BioTrust gives you the 5 most available kinds of collagens that dissolve easily in hot or cold liquids with 0 taste. You can add it to your coffee, tea, or smoothies, or even baked goods recipes. So to look and feel younger fast, go to www.healthwithbill.com. Good evening. I'm still reporting on the coup. The Cabal team is still feverishly working nights and weekends to squeeze anything additionally out of their manipulative expertise now that they are on top of the world. Most troubling is that they are now admittedly purging the military of patriot-minded, and that means constitutionally minded, military up and down the chain of command. It was bad enough when it became known that Obama was purging members of the officer corps during his first year in office. The fruits of that action 12 years ago were what pummeled President Trump upside the head time and time again as he searched desperately for a military replacement for General Flynn. Yes, the Cabal incredibly was able to effectively sideline Flynn for the entire 4 years of Trump's presidency, and yet no one seems to say this out loud. But now, in what appears to be nothing less than Obama's 3rd term blossoming, the Biden Cabal crew seems to be making it known that they intend to purge, and that's their word, purge, the entire military of anyone who doesn't have the same political beliefs that the president has. In other words, submission to globalist governance and to hell with America's brief 245-year outbreak of freedom for the little people. But these higher-level gambits are mostly shrouded deep in the smoke of the smoke and mirrors spooks. What they are doing in the here and now with impeachment is being done right out in the open, yet equally dangerous. Desperados have decided to brand the Capitol Hill riot as a Trump-generated insurrection. What makes it an insurrection? 5 people were killed at the hands of the mob, or were they? Tucker Carlson took this on last night, and it is well worth taking another look at to be sure these facts are nailed down for the eyes of history.
Here are the facts as of tonight. 4 of the 5 who died that day were Trump supporters. The 5th was a Capitol Hill police officer who apparently also supported Donald Trump. Yet the only recorded casualties on January 6th were people who voted for Donald Trump. The first among them was the 34-year-old woman from Georgia called Roseanne Boyland. Authorities first announced that Boyland died of a, quote, medical emergency. Later video footage suggested she may have accidentally been trampled by the crowd. We're still not sure. That's the best guess. The second casualty was 55-year-old Kevin Greeson. Greeson died of heart failure while talking to his wife on a cell phone outside the Capitol. Quote, Kevin had a history of high blood pressure, his wife later said, and in the midst of the excitement, he suffered a heart attack, end quote. The third was 50-year-old Benjamin Phillips of Ringtown, Pennsylvania. Phillips was a Trump supporter who organized a bus trip to Washington for the rally that day. He died of a stroke on the grounds of the Capitol. There is no evidence that Phillips rioted or was injured by rioters or even went inside the Capitol building. The fourth person to die, the only person to die that day of intentional violence, was 35-year-old Ashley Babbitt, a military veteran from San Diego. Babbitt was wearing a Trump cape when she was shot to death by a Capitol Hill police lieutenant. Babbitt's death was caught on video, so hers is the best documented death that took place that day. And yet it is surprising how little we know about it. Babbitt was shot as she tried to crawl through a broken window into the speaker's lobby within the Capitol. And that's essentially the extent of what we know. Authorities have refused to release the name of the man who shot her or divulge any details of the investigation they say they've done. We may never know exactly why this unnamed Capitol Hill police officer took her life. According to that officer's attorney, quote, there is no way to look at the evidence and think that he is anything but a hero. Killing an unarmed woman may be justified under certain specific circumstances. But since when is it, quote, heroic? We do know that Ashley Babbitt was not holding a weapon when she was killed. Nevertheless, at the impeachment hearing this week, Congressman David Cicilline of Rhode Island described what happened at the Capitol as, quote, an armed insurrection. Watch.
He incited an armed, angry mob to riot. On inciting an armed insurrection against the United States government, an armed, angry, and dangerous crowd, armed violence against the government of the United States of America.
David Cicilline is a former mafia lawyer from Providence, so presumably he knows what it is to commit a felony with a firearm. Doubtless he does. There are no reports of rioters at the Capitol building that day discharging weapons or threatening anyone with a gun. So what exactly is David Cicilline talking about? Well, apparently he's referring to the death of Officer Brian Sicknick. In the hours after the riot, the New York Times reported that Trump supporters had brutally beaten Officer Sicknick to death with a fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher, apparently, is the deadly weapon, the armed in the armed insurrection. Now, the news of Sicknick's death by violence was quickly picked up by countless other media outlets. Cable television anchors repeated and then amplified it.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher during the hours-long attack.
They beat a Capitol police officer to death with a fire extinguisher.
Officer Brian Sicknick died after being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher during the fight.
He died at the age of 42 after he was bludgeoned with a fire extinguisher.
Capitol Hill police officer beaten to death with a fire extinguisher by a white supremacist mob. It's horrifying. And that is the story they were telling. It's a story they still are telling. That account forms the basis of the myth that Democrats have constructed around January 6th. But in fact, the story they told was a lie, from beginning to end. Officer Sicknick was not beaten to death, not with a fire extinguisher, not with anything else. According to an exhaustive and fascinating new analysis on Revolver News, there's no evidence that Brian Sicknick was hit with a fire extinguisher at any point during the day. None. No video, nothing. The officer's body apparently bore no signs of trauma. In fact, on the night of January 6th, long after rioters at the Capitol had been arrested or dispersed, Brian Sicknick texted his brother from his office. According to his brother, Sicknick said he'd been, quote, pepper sprayed twice and he was in good shape. 24 hours later, Officer Brian Sicknick was dead. How did Officer Sicknick die? The head of the Capitol Police Union has said he had a stroke, no cause given. More than that, we still don't know. Sicknick's body was cremated immediately. Authorities have refused to release his autopsy. No one has been charged in his death. No charges are pending. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was tragic, obviously. But it was also very different from what they have told us. They have lied about how he died.
Without these foundational lies, not even a desperado would dare to bring a second fraudulent impeachment of a now former president. This is why the desperados are always in such a hurry to do anything except indict one of their own, to attempt to succeed with their gambits before the truth catches up to them. And that's why the term rushed to judgment exists in this world. I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day. Every doctor on TV says that we all need to boost our immune systems. And STEM Enhance does that in a unique way by increasing blood levels of your own adult stem cells, the backbone of your immune system, by over 30% in just 1 hour. Click on the link in the description box below for details.